Have you been eyeballing the new Pat McGrath Mothership, but don't want to spend $128 on this new eyeshadow palette? Well, I'm here to give you a dupe out of Single Shadows. So let's get into this video. I have watched countless videos, I've seen countless swatches, and I have compiled a BYOP eyeshadow palette for the new Mothership palette from Pat McGrath Labs. It is the Petalmorphosis palette. So I have curated a whole bunch of single shades, and there are 10 in total from this new eyeshadow palette, and it does retail for $128, but I'm here to tell you, I have some eyeshadows that are dupes for that eyeshadow palette. And I did take some liberties, just a little bit, but I did try to stay true to the color story. So let's talk about the Pat McGrath Labs Mothership number 12 Petalmorphosis palette. It says that it is a 10 shade eyeshadow palette that transforms eye artistry into blooming masterpieces with lush greens, lilac hues, and radiant dazzling astrals and jewel toned metallics that blend and layer seamlessly, sculpting and illuminating looks that captivate and stay put. We have 10 shades. We're going to be going through each one, and we're going to swatch them on the back of my hand so that you guys can see what they look like. The first shade in the Petalmorphosis palette is called Divine Dawn, and it was described as a warm goldeny beige like luminizer with a pinkish sheen. And I also saw that it was really described as like very shimmery. So I went into my palettes and I pulled out this shade from Ensley Rain's Cosmic Dreamer palette, and it is called Antimatter. So we're going to swatch it here. This is very shimmery. It does have a pinkish undertone, and in the swatches it also had a pinkish undertone to it as well. So this is the shade that I picked for Divine Dawn. So Divine Dawn was characterized as warm golden beige luminizer. So I'm thinking it's more of like a topper. It's a shimmery shade, very light with a pinkish sheen. And you can see a little bit of a pinkish sheen in this one here. It was also described as more of a neutral shade. The next shade is called Twilight Lilac, and it was described as a soft lilac plum matte. When I saw swatches of this, I did notice that it was a darker matte shade. So I chose this shade right here from Makeup Geek Cosmetics. Makeup Geek is no longer a brand, but if you still have their like Matrix palettes, then you might have this one. It is the shade called Lavender Dreams. And this is the shade here. It is like a plummy lilac purple shade. The next shade on the top row is called Cosmic Fantasies, and it is described as a burgundy metallic, and it said that it was very purple leaning with a small shift of gold. And I pulled from the Cosmic Dreamer palette from Ensley Rain Cosmetics, the Astral Traveler. And this is supposed to be a purpley burgundy shade. You can see here it's very burgundy with a little bit of a purple in it, and it does have a little bit of gold underneath as well. Astral Eden Envy is a golden moss green with a bronze metallic, and it was described as having a lot of sparkles. Another person described it as chartreuse with golden pearls. So I chose this shade right here from Terra Moon's Cosmetics, and it is the shade Hot Spiced Cider. So it is supposed to be like a greenish, goldish, shifting shade, and it is supposed to be very sparkly, which would describe the shade right here. So chartreuse with a little bit of an undertone to it. When I saw the swatches for this shade, it would definitely look like this like golden shade with like a bronzes undertone. So like kind of like a brown undertone in it. The last shade in the very first row is called Astral Sunset Splendor. It was described as a soft iridescent coral, and there were a lot of creators who said it was very sparkly. So the shade that I picked is the shade Pixie Sticks from Devinah Cosmetics. It is a sparkly coral shade, and it does have like a pinkish yellow shift in it. So it is more of a duochromatic, but it is also a very shifty shade in regards to how it looks on the skin. So it's very shifty. It is very iridescent looking, but it also has that coral undertone that was described by some of the creators. Starting with the second row, we do have this like very dark green matte shade. The shade is called Nocturnal Bloom, and it was described as a very dark blue-green matte shade. A lot of people said it was also just a green matte shade. In some of the photos, it translated kind of like blue-green. In some of the other photos, it translated very like green. I picked the shade Wild Hearted from the Ensley Rain palette of Cosmic Dreamer. Foresty green, but it has a little bit of a blue undertone in it. And in both the swatches and the Pat McGrath palette photos and in the creator photos, it was like this super dark green shade. So this is the Ensley Rain Cosmetics Wild Hearted eyeshadow out of the Cosmic Dreamer palette. The next shade is called Astral Iridescent Iris, and it was described as a very like iridescent purple with a white base with multicolored sparkles that featured blue and pink. I actually picked the shade from Devinah called Rain Tarts, and this does have a bluish pinkish shift in it, and it does have a white base, and it is very iridescent, as you can see here. So it has an iridescence of purple, blue, and it does have a little bit of that white base as described. The next shade is Lunar Nectar. This one was actually a little bit hard to find because a lot of people said it was kind of like a corally rose matte with a gold pearl like sequin shade. I don't have any sequin shades. I feel like they just, if it has a sequin in it, it's just gonna like flit off the eye anyway. But when I was looking at the swatches, it kind of just looked like a muted mauve purpley pink shade. So I did pick Blushing Beauty from Makeup Geek Cosmetics, and this is just your mauve pink with a little bit of a purple undertone. And when you look at the shades from Pat McGrath and her website, it does look more like this mauve purple, and you can't really see the sequin or like that golden glitter that's accompanied with it in the shades, like in the swatches that she's provided on her website. The next shade we have is called, it's a Blitz shade, it's called Radiant Rhapsody, and it was described as a metallic turquoise, very opaque metallic shade. So I actually chose the shade from Ensley Rain Cosmetics Cosmic Dreamer palette, and it is the Lunar Storm shade, and this actually does a turquoise shift to a purple shift, and this is where I took a little bit of liberty with it. The only other shade that I thought that could possibly match it, but it didn't seem quite sparkly as what it was showing in the swatches on the Pat McGrath site, would be the Terra Moon's Festival shade, which I actually have included in the palette as well, and that is a turquoise metallic as well. So one of these two, I wasn't really sure which one matched a little bit more. I definitely feel like the Ensley Rain one just kind of like amps up this BYOP, so I am choosing that one for this BYOP, but I will show the swatches on the back of my hand here. You can see the Terra Moons definitely is just that metallic turquoise, and then you also have the Ensley Rain, which is on top, and it does do that shift, and I think it would create some beautiful, more multi-dimensional looks if a shade like that had been included in the Pat McGrath Labs palette. Now, it did also say that it was somewhat sparkly in the description, and also in the photos you can see that sparkle. These are more smooth, but definitely the Ensley Rain one does have a little bit more like sparkle in it as well, and it is such a beautiful shade. The last shade in the palette, it is called Bronze Supernova. It is a Blitz shade. It's described as a metallic platinum bronze with a silver pearl. It's kind of got like a neutral warmth to it with a little bit of bronze and then silver sparkle. And I honestly thought about one of the eyeshadow palettes from the new collection from Devinah Cosmetics, and it is called Velvet Sin, which is this shade right here. And this is a more goldeny bronze shade with that silver like sparkle to it. Very, very glittery on the eyes, or you can build it up to make it look more opaque, and it does have almost that bronze look to it as well. Mocha, bronzy, with like these like silver shifts in it, and it is just absolutely stunning. As you can see, it leaves like quite a sparkle on my hand after I'm done swatching it. Like it's crazy how much sparkle it leaves on the hand. But this is the Pat McGrath Mothership 12 Petalmorphosis palette, like my BYOP version. I have a couple of Makeup Geek singles in here. I do have some like individual singles in here that are from Terra Moons and also from Devinah. And then I also have a lot of shades from the Cosmic Dreamer palette by Ensley Rain Cosmetics. So I will leave those all linked down below if you guys want to check those out. And we're going to get into a tutorial real quick and show you how I got this really easy eyeshadow look. It's kind of like lilac-y with a little bit of green in it, and it's super pretty and iridescent. So let's get into that. This is definitely a fun palette that kind of brings like grungy spring to the mix. I definitely think that if you were to purchase like the Cosmic Dreamer palette and then you actually purchased, you know, some of these individual shades, it would total less than what the Pat McGrath palette retails for at $128. Overall, I think it's a super fun palette. I think that it brings a little bit of like grunge to the spring season. I do feel like we have seen this color story before. I know a lot of people have compared it to the Dragon Eye palette from What's Up Beauty. I do not have that eyeshadow palette. I do have some of their other ones though, and I do really feel like it resembles the Dragon Eye palette quite a bit. I think the only thing that's different between the Pat McGrath one and the Dragon Eye one is that Dragon Eye has a lot more multi-chromes in it, and it also has like a darker purple shade instead of that darker green matte shade. And that's like the differences between them. Heather Austin did do a little bit of comparison between those two palettes, so definitely go check out her video. I will leave it linked down below. There are some other creators who have also done their own BYOPs, and I will leave those linked down below as well. But you don't need to spend $128 to get the Pat McGrath palette. You can actually build it with some existing eyeshadows that are available, as well as some existing eyeshadow palettes. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you consider subscribing before you go, and I hope I get to see you in my next video. Bye!